Hey guys, today I'm going to show you a special way to fix the power jack if it's broken in a specific way. Sometimes, like in this case of this Lenovo U510 here, the power jack is pushed back inside the laptop. See, when I'm trying to plug it in, there's just nothing for it to plug into. The casing is kind of broken here, and when you try to plug in that power cord, it's just pushed back. So what you see there is that jack inside the laptop. And this is kind of a common symptom from some of these jacks that are cable jacks that plug into the motherboard. This is not one that is soldered in, and this fix will not work on a soldered in style DC jack. This is just one of the cables that is plugged into the, or not plugged in, but plugged into the motherboard, but the actual jack itself is inside the housing of the computer, and that's usually what breaks, and the jack gets that pushback feel inside of it. So here I'm just going to start taking it apart. This one's pretty simple. You just have to remove the bottom panel. And there's some screws on this one that are underneath the little rubber tabs. So that bottom panel comes off pretty easy here, and once you remove the bottom panel on this Lenovo U510, you have instant access to the jack. And as you can see right there, that jack has just come free from the base or the bottom case of the computer, the chassis, whatever you want to call it. And so right here I'm just plugging it in to check out to make sure it's working, and sure enough on the front I get that battery light coming on. So it seems like it's the jack, but it's not the jack itself that's failed, it's the housing that the jack is sitting in that has broken. So here I'm just looking at the housing, trying to see if it can go back in together, and it's pretty shaky when I put it back in the way it's supposed to be. And what ends up happening is that plastic is just cracked where the jack goes in. So you're never really going to get a stable connection again unless you were to replace that whole plastic. And so I have a special gel glue. This is the Loctite Ultra Gel, and you know what I do is I take this gel glue and I'll put it where that housing is broken. And I'm trying to get a little bit of a better angle here so you guys can see. But if you see those two little notches, you can see how the top one is bent, and that's why it's not the jack isn't staying in properly. So what I'm trying to do here is add some glue, kind of right to where those, right to where the jack connects inside there. So I'm trying to get an angle. So now you can see I'm going to put, there's two little notches. I'm in the first notch right now, and I'm adding some glue to that first notch, and a little bit on the bottom where the jack is going to sit, and then up into that second notch. So instead of replacing this whole casing here, I'm just going to add some glue to it, and you can see how I got in those two little ridges there. So now what you can do is you can take that jack and you can stick it in where the glue is. That's where it's supposed to go, inside the housing there. And that thing will be rock solid again. This glue typically takes 24 hours to set completely, but I'm just holding it down here to make sure that it stays in that spot. And in this case here, I'm actually going to put it back together and have the jack plugged in. So just making sure that it fits properly after I use the glue right here. Sometimes if you don't let that glue set properly, the thing can come undone, and then you'll have a jack that's glued in the wrong way, which is obviously not what you want, and it won't fit anymore. And so here you can see that little light on the battery light that it's charging, and the jack itself isn't bad, it's just what the jack is plugged into. So now I'm just kind of pushing it down just to make sure it stays flush where it's supposed to. And now I'm just going to put the computer back together, which isn't much, it's just this bottom panel here. And what I'm doing here is that bottom panel is kind of broken. That screw, as I just took out there, kind of came through. It never would unscrew when I was doing it from the top. So now that I have that piece off, I'm able to unscrew it, and now I'm just going to go back and screw it back in the way it's supposed to. So the casing, the case bottom panel, whatever you want to call it, is a little bit broken in this case, but sometimes you can use a workaround like I'm doing, just unscrew it from the inside, put it back together. If something's really blatantly broken and it's affecting functionality, then I tell the customer it's a good idea to replace it. But sometimes in cases like these, it can get away with putting it back together and not having to replace anything, which is usually what the customer wants. Sometimes these bottom cases and chassis can be expensive to replace, and the labor is expensive and time consuming. So. Alright, so now that you can see that jack is not, it's kind of hard to see in the video here, but it's not as pushed in as it was previously. That needle is much closer to the edge, so you can see the difference here. And now I can plug this thing in, unlike before where it was just flopping out as soon as I tried to plug it in. There was really nothing to plug into because it was recessed back into there. And now the laptop powers up and everything's good. So this is a fix you could use if you're in this situation. A lot of laptops are designed like this that have the cable style jack that gets pushed in. So sometimes instead of replacing the jack or replacing the housing or chassis, you can just glue that jack back into place. Thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions, just leave a comment below. Thanks, take care.